but I never ever thought that I would be living on Main Street of a little tiny central Iowa town with few thousand of you here that weren't here before. Like, I'm talking in the last 90 days, I felt like I should probably introduce myself. So my name is Shelby, and I am the owner of The Backyard here on Main Street in Collins. My husband Willie and I live here in Collins on Main Street in a building that we renovated that I'm sitting in right now. We've not been here in this little tiny town in central Iowa for very long. How we got here is a little bit of a story, but I did want to share it with you because it's how we got here. So how we ended up in Collins, I had a previous business in which I bought a building on Main Street, which The Backyard is now home to. So 222 Main Street, I bought in 2019. I used to raise crickets for human consumption. So I grew up not very far from here, less than half an hour just outside of Ames. And I started a business raising crickets for human consumption, started selling them at the local Ames Farmers Market, and then I needed a building to put in a licensed food processing plant so that I could sell online and in grocery stores and just, expand outside of live in-person events. So in the summer of 2019, I bought 222 Main and turned it into my licensed food processing plant. It was licensed in November of 2019, and it was the only reason that my cricket business survived through 2020, because we all know what happened. So pursued the cricket business up until, I would say, early 2024 was when I really started cutting back and had set a final end date. Somebody would like to be in the intro video. This is Grease. She is the little kitten that showed up in front of, or in the back of our building in the middle of June. She's gonna try and jump down. She's 5 times the size when we got her. She was 1.2 pounds when we first got her. So she's now well over 5, probably 6 pounds at this point. Her puppy brother is over laying on the couch peacefully, not interrupting my video. Anyways, so bought the building in 2019, had it licensed end of 2019, survived 2020, grew that business. At its peak, I was in 150 different stores in 20-something states. I had shipped to all 50 states. I was a speaker on a panel at South by Southwest, a few panels, in 2022 and 2023, and the 2023 one is really significant. Not only was it the real panels that I was on, but that was where Willie and I went to Austin together, and we were sitting at the South Austin Beer Garden, and it's an outdoor place, outdoor venue. They took an old house and blew out the sides of it. They had a bar, they brought food trucks. We just loved the vibe. We spent probably 5-6 hours there, and we said that when the bike trail got paved in Collins, we were gonna open a similar concept. So that became a really pivotal moment for what we have now. So anyway, continued the cricket thing. I was raising the crickets, processing them, marketing them, the whole thing. It was a lot of work, and I was really falling out of love with it. So in beginning of 2024, I went and auditioned for a Gordon Ramsay show in London. Really weird experience. Spoiler alert, they didn't pick me. But I got a free trip to London. But before I got on that plane, I told Willie that I was definitely done with the crickets. I was ready to set an end date, and I set an end date for July 1st. I was gonna raise my last crickets. Ended up being May of 2024 that I just was like, I can't do this anymore. So I pursued a sale. The cricket business is not very large. I knew I had a few options. First option ended up actually falling through. Second option ended up working out. And so I was able to sell some of those assets, mainly intellectual property, so accounts and recipes and things like that, for that to continue on. Didn't get a giant check or anything. I get some royalties and things like that. But I was ready to, I didn't exactly know what I wanted to do yet. I thought that I would just help Willie with the plants and with his landscaping business, because his landscaping business in 2023 had grown significantly. 2024 was a little bit of a down year, but that's a different conversation. So I thought I would just help him do that. And while I was doing that, I was also refinishing furniture. I started refinishing furniture because of the renovation of the building, and we had blown the budget. And so I needed to furnish the place with cool furniture. We had an awesome workshop at the back, which I'll give you guys a tour of all of that. So I started refinishing furniture and putting it up on Facebook Marketplace. And I was like, well, this seems to be selling. I think I could do this. We have this building that I own and the empty lot next to it. Why don't I open a store? So I decided to open the backyard, which was a vintage and home goods store with all my refinished furniture. There weren't really a whole lot of houseplants in the beginning. I sort of decided as a last minute inclusion to do mini plants for my opening weekend. And those actually drove a lot of revenue that first month, I would say. So I started really leaning into that after that. But so I opened the store end of September of 2024. So we are coming up on the 1-year anniversary as we speak. And the bike trail was set to be paved by the end of 2024 as well. So we knew it wasn't gonna be open for the 2024 season. So there's no point in really going through the liquor license, building out a bar structure, that whole thing. So we decided to shoot for an early 2025 opening on that. And so that's what we did. We opened Steeped and Stirred, which is our coffee and cocktail patio area in the back of the backyard, in April of 2025. So that's how we got here. I skipped over the whole piece of us buying this 140-year-old building that I'm sitting in right now and renovating it, and we live upstairs in an apartment. I will also take you on a tour of 214 Main. I will show you some before footage because the transformation is wild. But so yeah, I am a Central Iowa girl, born and raised. I played basketball in college out in Philadelphia. I went overseas and I played in Ireland. I have an undergraduate and a master's degree in finance. I worked as an equity derivatives trader for a brief amount of time. And looking back, that feels like an entire lifetime ago, and I do not miss it. But I never, ever thought that I would be living on Main Street of a little tiny Central Iowa town. This was just never what I had envisioned. But right now I'm really, really proud of what we're building, and it really feels like we are building something meaningful. I know that sounds really corny, but it feels like we're building something meaningful and impactful. And so my whole purpose of this series is to give you some behind the scenes, have you follow along while we build our businesses, because his business is almost 5 years old at this point, but there's been a lot of changes. There's been a lot of scaling up and scaling down and diversifying into different things. And then my business, obviously, from crickets to vintage and home goods and coffee and cocktail bar, you couldn't have a more wide-ranging contrast, I guess. And mine is definitely still in its infancy, with the backyard only being a year old and Steeped and Stirred being less than 6 months old at this point. So that's the point with this series, is to kind of bring you behind the scenes. First, obviously, I need to introduce you to all of the spaces. So like I said, I'll give you a tour of the backyard and Steeped and Stirred and 214 Main, and show you around some of Willie's stuff and that kind of thing, so that you can get more of an idea of the people behind the madness here in this little tiny town of Collins. We'll be calling it Main Street Moments, or my Main Street Moments, because we are very entrenched in Main Street. So hope you follow along. Obviously, subscribe, comment, share, all of those things. I hope that this is a fun series, fun, entertaining series for you to watch. And honestly, I really hope that it ends up being helpful for someone else who is either building their business, considering starting a business in a little bitty town like we are, wondering what they can do or wondering what other people are doing. I hope that this eventually becomes a resource. So yeah, that's me. You met my cat. I'm not gonna show you the dog because he is, like I said, peacefully sleeping, and now the cat is also peacefully curled up on the chair. So welcome to Main Street Moments.